Hello and welcome to Crosstalk, where all things are considered. I'm Peter LaBelle. Big tech and the political left unite. The age of the gag order is underway. And is Boris Johnson set to win and win big in the general election? Brexit, it would seem, has changed everything. Cross-talking some real news. I'm joined by my guest here in Moscow, Dmitry Babich. He's a political analyst and editor at InnoSME Internet Media Project. And in Athens, we're joined by Alex Rusiforo. He's the editor and writer for theduran.com. All right, gentlemen, Crosstalk rules in effect. That means you can jump in anytime you want, and I always appreciate it. Let me go to Alex in Athens first. I'm titling this program Gag Order, and I know you know what I'm talking about. First, we have this whistleblower, which anyone that has any interest in this ridiculous, dismal story knows who we're talking about, okay? It's been in media outlets for quite a few days, at least 10, maybe 2 weeks now. And now Facebook and Google and YouTube, they're scrubbing everything. That's number one. Number two, the Epstein story is back in the news. A young producer that left ABC News and then went to CBS, and they claim she leaked this interview with an ABC presenter, and she said she didn't do it, but she's fired anyway, and they don't want to follow up on it. This is the age of the gag order. Go ahead, in Athens.
Yeah, Peter, I mean, what you're seeing here is the mainstream media in collusion with social media, in collusion with intelligence agencies, the deep state, who are also working with the Democrats in this impeachment inquiry hoax, which is a whole nother ridiculous matter in and of itself. But what you have right now, Peter, I mean, when you look at these two stories, which both broke around the same time, on the one hand, you have this person who is what I would describe as a malicious CIA gossip blower.
Yeah.
There's no way he's a whistleblower. That's without a doubt.
Yeah, he's a water cooler buffoon.
Exactly. That's what you have here. But you're not allowed to say this person's name, even though his name was mentioned, I believe it was April 25th, Peter, by Dan Bongino. That was the first person that actually mentioned this guy's name. It's all over the place.
His name is in the Mueller report.
Yeah, there you go. But you're not allowed to say his name. No media channel is allowed to say his name. No one on social media is allowed to say his name. If you say his name, Peter, on a social media post on Facebook or on YouTube, as we have done on our channel, then your video gets taken down. You get warnings from YouTube. Your posts on Facebook gets scrubbed. You can't even place his name in comments,
Alex,
Peter. You can't even put it in comments.
But even under the whistleblower law, as it stands now, it is not part of the statute that he remains anonymous. It's not part of the statute whatsoever, okay? It's the Inspector General that can make that determination. So we have here, let me turn to Dima right now, we have these social media companies now determining what freedom of speech is. They're determining, at least in an American sense, what the First Amendment allows and doesn't allow. That's not their place to do that, but they're unilaterally doing it, and they're punishing people that defy their rules, their community values here. It seems to me, Dima, this is a power grab and a sign of what is to come, because we're in the very first stages of this shadow banning, this censorship, and they're getting people used to it because they make the rules now.
Well, I think that basically we know where it comes from. It's not just the social media giants. We see how they've been pressured. You know, we see how Zuckerberg comes to the Congress, how he's been pressured. He's been pressured also in the European Union. You know, they basically threatened him, you know, saying that unless you abide by our rules, whatever they are, you will be out.
Yeah, whatever they are, because
exactly.
They don't tell you what they are.
And that's true. But in the end, we see how it works. The mainstream media pressures the Congress, it pressures politicians in general. Then the politicians pressure the social media, and the dissenting voices are being silenced. You know, this latest story with the ABC reporter that you just told us about, well, it was basically leaked, made public by Project Veritas, headed by James O'Keefe. What do we read about him in the mainstream media? You know, what do we read about him in the newspapers? He recently released video from a former CNN employee claiming bias within the organization. End of quote. Well, didn't we know that CNN was biased? Is it such a huge mystery, you know? If we and these people, you know, the CNN does not abide by the rules. They insult the president as they want, you know. They insult Russia as they want. They make unsubstantiated accusations every day.
Ask Judge Kavanaugh, okay,
yeah,
about
exactly.
unsubstantiated charges against his nomination.
And they're not punished. But if you are not CNN and you publish a person's name, and everyone knows that name already, you can be punished. So this is a sort of inequality here. We see it.
Let me go back to Athens. Alex, I think, you know, with this whistleblower, which we all know his name, and people watching this program knows his name, the reason why they're doing this, number one, is they're flexing, the social media and the Democrats are flexing their muscles. This is ahead of 2020, be able to cut out any kind of a narrative that they don't like. And number two, they know this water cooler boy, he's full of it, okay? That's why they don't want his name mentioned. Okay, because if he's ever confronted under oath, it's going to fall apart, and they all know it. Alex.
Absolutely right, Peter. I don't have anything to add there. What I will add is if there's any proof, if you need any proof that these social media companies are publishers and not platforms,
yep,
you have it right here. This is rock solid proof, Peter, of that point. And going back to the ABC story, so on the one hand, you have this purge of anyone that mentions this person's name. On the other hand, you have ABC and CBS News, who I thought were competitors, colluding with each other to hunt down a real whistleblower, exposing a cover-up for a man convicted of pedophilia. This is a company owned by Disney, Peter.
Yeah.
And they're protecting this man because he is connected to the Clintons, because the person that hosts their morning show used to work for the Clintons and went to parties with this man named Epstein, and because Epstein's assistant, his confidant, Ghislaine, was at the wedding of the Clintons, and this was in 2016, right before the election cycle, and Hillary Clinton did not want this out.
Dima, Alex just mentioned facts here, a lot of facts, knowable facts, if you have any interest whatsoever. But CBS and ABC refuse to admit these are facts here. I mean, this is one of the reasons why people, among many reasons, why people are losing faith in the mainstream media. Because it's not really, it's really the sin of omission. They don't mention what really is the news. What they'll do is give you good feeling, virtue signaling, but they won't give you the news.
Well, also, they have very short memory. I mean,
that's for sure.
What was the main narrative about Syria in the last 2 months? Oh, Trump is betraying the Kurds, you know. They never mentioned Obama, you know. He was the first to get involved
illegally,
in Syria.
Under international law.
He was supporting Turkey when Turkey was pressuring Syria, when Turkey was basically sending armed men into Syria in 2012, in 2013. So this is forgotten, you know, just like with other examples of their attacks against Trump. Everything, all the story, you know, as if it all started with Trump coming to the White House. And Trump was right when he said, I didn't come to Syria. I actually didn't start any new wars,
and they won't let him out. Okay, let's go back to Athens. Alex, you know, I looked at the reporting on CNN and on Fox News and a little bit of MSNBC. You couldn't get two different storylines coming out right now with this impeachment process, this ridiculous whistleblower thing, this invented Ukraine gate. I mean, they're living and operating in very different universes right now, and people are beginning to strongly notice. Alex.
Yeah, you're right, Peter. There's no doubt that they're reporting two different narratives. But the interesting part, Peter, is that all the mainstream media, including Fox, they still won't mention this person's name.
Yep.
All the people at Fox actually, from what I understand, they got an order from up top. Don't mention this person's name. This is a trial balloon of what's to come, Peter, as we're heading into 2020. We're going to see a lot more of this censorship, a lot more of this bullying, a lot more of telling people what they can and cannot say out of fear of being deplatformed and being erased online. Not only social media, they'll erase you from payment services. They may even hit you at your bank. This is very, very scary. What we're seeing is the U.S. rapidly becoming an authoritarian surveillance state. And it's happening right before our eyes.
Dima, you know, this is what's really, really troubling here, because we have these social media companies. They're the ones that are setting the rules right now. They are outside of legitimate law enforcement and what the rules really are. And there's so many people are intimidated because I don't see lawmakers taking up this issue and saying what you're doing is beyond your purview. This is what we're supposed to do as lawmakers. But the people are so hesitant. Intimidation.
It's true, and you know, I don't even like this situation when they call this person a whistleblower.
Well, he's not. He's a leaker.
Because real whistleblowers, they get on stop-light lists. And there are dozens of such people in the United States, especially after the revelations of WikiLeaks, especially after the revelations on the war in Iraq. You know, dozens of such people. And we know their names. You can just go to the internet and look up.
John Kiriakou is the first one that comes to my mind.
Absolutely. And a lot of them spend some time in jail, and a lot of them are in the stop-light list. This person that they mention is not threatened by anything. He understands that he has.
He is connected.
Absolutely.
That's what he is. He's connected in so many different ways to so many people in power, so many people in the deep state here. That's why.
And
but
he's
the reason
connected
why
by 1 million words that they said in
and
his
that's
support
why
already.
they won't mention, because you'll understand how well connected this is and how this is just another hoax.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, Alex Christophorou, thank you very much for joining us on the program. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, Peter.
We're going to go to a short break, and after that short break, we'll continue our discussions on some real news. Stay with RT.
Join me every Thursday on The Alex Salmond Show, when I'll be speaking to guests on the world of politics, sport, business, and show business. I'll see you then.
Is your media a reflection of reality? In a world transformed, what will make you feel safer? Isolation or community? Are you going the right way, or are you being led somewhere? Which direction? What is truth? What is fake? In a world corrupted, you need to descend. So join us in the depths, or remain in the shallows.
Without the ever-present constant drip of the free money, we would have a day of reckoning. And prices would revert back to reflect supply and demand. And it would be a catastrophic trapdoor opening underneath the U.S. economy. Because the U.S. won't do it for itself, China will do it for the U.S. in the form of announcing, as a surprise, 20,000 tons of gold and the introduction of a gold-backed cryptocurrency. This will kill the U.S. dollar deader than a doornail.
Welcome back to Crosstalk, where all things are considered. I'm Peter Lavelle. To remind you, we're discussing some real news. And now to London, and we're joined by Marcus Papadopoulos. He's the editor of Politics First magazine. Marcus, thank you for joining us today. I want you to tell us everything that's important about this general election that's coming up, because a number of things that I've learned is that it looks like Boris Johnson could come out on top in a very big way. But others are also talking about this as being the most important general election since 1945. Is that true, in your opinion, Marcus?
I certainly concur with that assessment, Peter. This general election is a monumental one for Britain, and it is almost a unique general election. Why? Because this is the first time in recent times that the election is about one issue and one issue only, and that is Brexit. That is what makes this election so unbelievable. For Boris Johnson, this is a massive gamble, because Boris Johnson has to win this election, and he has to win it with a majority. It is not good enough for the Conservatives to come out as the largest party, but without a majority. So Boris Johnson has to win with a majority in order for him to break the Brexit deadlock. For Jeremy Corbyn, what he needs to do is not necessarily win, but to deprive the Conservatives of a majority. That will be good enough for Jeremy Corbyn. Now, going by the polls at the moment, it would seem that the Conservatives are on for a majority. But then we have to be very cautious about opinion polls, because in Britain in recent years, they have proved to be utterly wrong. Yep. If we look at the Labour Party, Jeremy Corbyn is not doing well in the polls, and the main reason for that is because of his stance on Brexit. It would appear that the Labour heartlands, which are in the north of England, who voted overwhelmingly to leave the EU, are absolutely livid at Corbyn, because Corbyn personally loathes the EU. But he has come out and said, Peter, that he would support a second referendum, and during a second referendum campaign, he would remain neutral. Now, if the Labour heartlands on December the 12th do not vote Labour, then that is when Boris Johnson could very well be on course for achieving a majority.
You know, Dima, it is about one issue here. It is about Brexit. But because it is about Brexit, I would also argue it also is about neoliberalism and its limitations and even its rejection by the electorate, though they wouldn't necessarily say neoliberalism.
Well, basically, if we look at the history of the problem, I mean, Boris Johnson, just 2 months ago in The Telegraph, he published an article titled, let me quote it, "We will prove Vladimir Putin wrong by exiting the EU on October 31. Well, October 31 has come, and nothing happened. They're still inside the EU. So Marcus very rightly called it a deadlock. And people are getting frustrated because whatever they do, they're always to do the right thing. You know, it's no longer you push a button and you make a choice. It's like a child's toy, you know, where until you push the right button, it says no, choose another one, right? So people are getting frustrated.
You could actually use that the metaphor of a minefield as well.
Absolutely,
okay.
yes.
All right, let me go back to Marcus here. Marcus, I was looking at the campaign slogans for the three major parties here. The Conservatives have "Get Brexit Done, Unleash Britain's Potential." Not bad. Labour's slogan, "It's time for real change."
Not
Who
clear.
came up with that one? And the Liberal Democrats, "Stop Brexit, Build a Brighter Future." Labour isn't addressing directly Brexit. Why not?
The problem for Jeremy Corbyn is this, Peter. He personally despises the European Union, and he has throughout his whole political career. However, the vast majority of the Parliamentary Labour Party, which is the Labour MPs, are in favour of Britain's membership of the EU. That is why, to appease the PLP, to try and prevent, in Corbyn's mind, a civil war from breaking out, he has gone along, or he has sided with the strong Remain element within the PLP. Now, that is why, in my opinion, he is in serious trouble, because the Labour movement feels quite differently to the European Union, but the Parliamentary Labour Party is pro-EU. So effectively, Peter, the choice before the British electorate is this. The Conservative Party is a Brexit party. The Labour Party is now a Remain party, to the disgust of traditional Labour voters, the working class in the north of England. The Liberal Democrat Party is a Remain party, and the Scottish National Party is a Remain party. So you can see what's probably going to happen on December the 12th. The Scottish National Party will be dominant across Scotland. The Conservatives will be dominant in the south. The Liberal Democrats will do well in London. Labour might pick up a few seats in Wales, but all eyes, Peter, must be on the north of England, because I know traditional Labour voters. They've only ever voted Labour, but they hate the EU. They hate the EU because they regard it as the epitome of capitalism or privatisation of a free market economy. They were delighted, Peter, when Corbyn became leader of the Labour Party. But now they feel our Jeremy Corbyn is actually siding with the EU, an ultra-capitalist project. They can't vote Labour because of that, because they regard it as neoliberal economics. So the choice before them is vote Conservative or vote for the Brexit Party. And it would seem, going by opinion polls, and opinion polls are just a snapshot of how someone is feeling at the time, but going by those opinion polls, they are going to be voting Conservative, which, Peter, is incredible to hear.
Marcus, let's say that Boris Johnson wins the election, but not with a significant majority. I mean, he faces the same fate as Jeremy Corbyn, I would imagine. I mean, this is really kind of, both of them are in the same boat right now. It has to be decisive, and it's going to be a winner take all, because Corbyn will not survive, or I would imagine, you tell me, if the Tories don't do well enough, then Boris Johnson's head's on the block too. Marcus.
Well, Peter, if Jeremy Corbyn does not win this general election, then he is going to step down. It's quite simple. Boris Johnson has to win with a majority. The Conservatives have to emerge on December the 12th as a majority government, which means, Peter, the Conservatives have to gain around 330 MPs. Now, that is quite a tall order for the Conservatives, but going by opinion polls, it's possible. However, if the Conservatives, if it's a hung parliament, then his gamble has failed. Peter, he will resign. Corbyn will resign. The Brexit deadlock will remain entrenched in its current position. And who knows what's going to happen with Brexit? Boris Johnson has to win with a majority. Nothing less will do. If he doesn't win a majority, then he's gone. Jeremy Corbyn will be gone. And by the end of the year, the Labour Party and the Conservative Party will be without leaders. What a peculiar state of affairs has befallen Britain.
You used the term, Dima, we heard the term hung parliament, but I think what we're having here is a hung democracy and a hung ideology. I mean, both parties have fared very poorly during all of this because they have divisions among themselves here. But it's what you get at the end, almost irrespective of the outcome, you're going to have an intensely polarized society without any solutions to deal with it. Dima.
Well, the mainstream press has already suggested a solution to all these complicated problems that Marcus has described. They are very concerned that the report on Moscow's attempts to influence the Brexit campaign has not been published. That's their main song, you know. Dominic Grieve, the head of the Select Committee, which investigated that, says, "We do know," I'm quoting him from The Independent, "we do know, and I think it's widely accepted, that the Russians have sought to interfere in other countries' democratic processes in the past." Well, in fact, they don't know, because no evidence has been produced, neither in the United States nor in Britain. But they keep saying it as if it was an axiom. And this is the only thing that the Conservatives, I would say the neoliberals from both parties can agree on. Moscow is to blame for everything. We remember how David Cameron said there is only one person in the world who is happy about this exit vote, Vladimir Putin. Well, in fact, Vladimir Putin didn't care, and he said it many times. We would accept any solution, any decision by the British people. Indeed, in Russia, we just watch it. with mixed feelings, because we have been taught that Britain is such a spotless democracy.
The beacon of it all.
But in fact, we see how people voted for something 3 years ago, and that doesn't happen. And you have a situation which looks more and more like a deadlock and more like an insult to democracy.
Marcus, let me go back to you in London. I mean, irrespective of the outcome in this general election, there's going to have to be a lot of healing after this 3 years of this coming and going and not going anywhere. I mean, where do you begin the healing process, or do we have a permanent division that will fester because even leaving the EU is going to take time and effort, and it probably won't be easy, and there are going to be plenty of people that will make political hay of that. How do you heal from all of this? Go ahead, Marcus in London.
Well, I think Britain can heal. There's no doubt about it that Brexit has severely polarised. I wouldn't say Britain, Peter. I would say England. There is a difference between
fair. Yeah, right.
And Britain. But I know lots of Remainers, Peter, who have said they still believe that Britain should remain in the EU. However, they believe that the people spoke. It is the will of the people for the UK to leave the EU, and for the sake of the country, for the sake of harmony, Britain needs to leave. But the problem is, going back to British media, this election campaign has demonstrated how magnificently awful British mainstream media is. And that conservative aspect element and the liberal element. Because instead of talking about 14 million Britons, Peter, living in poverty, including 4 million children living below the breadline, what is British media, the Conservatives and the Liberals talking about? They're talking about Russia.
They're talking about the wrong things here. Gentlemen, we've run out of time here, but I like how we've ended it, and I agree with Marcus. It's the media that's failing us all, not just the political class. Many thanks to my guests in Moscow, Athens, and in London, and thanks to our viewers for watching us here at RT. See you next time, and remember, crosstalk rules.